Harvard Law School just released their latest enrollment numbers, and they are surprising. They just watched their black student enrollment plunge to levels not seen since the 1960s. That's right, after a landmark Supreme Court decision ended race-based admissions, Harvard's incoming class saw black enrollment cut by more than half. This kind of dramatic shift doesn't just affect current applicants to Harvard, it sends a clear message to anyone hoping to break into top-tier law schools today. If you're prepping for the LSAT, pay close attention to this video because in this new world, your LSAT score might matter more than ever before. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now, here's what we know. Last year, Harvard Law welcomed 43 black first-year students. This year, they have just 19. Let that sink in for a moment. 19 students out of a class that often lands in the 50 to 70 range for black law student enrollment. This drop, of course, isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a direct ripple effect of the Supreme Court ruling that struck down affirmative action. Harvard, being at the center of that case, got hit hardest and fastest. Now, this sudden dive contrasts with other elite law schools, some of which didn't see quite as dramatic a change, but still, Harvard's shift sends a clear signal. The traditional approach to building a diverse class is under intense pressure. The old way, where admissions committees weighed race among other holistic factors, is over. Schools will likely now double down on something more quantifiable and legally uncontroversial, like your LSAT score. So what does this mean if you're an aspiring law student, especially one aiming for top law schools like Harvard, Yale, and Stanford? Before, schools factored a broad range of criteria to craft a well-rounded class, but now, with race-based considerations dramatically limited, you can expect admissions officers to rely more on safe metrics like your LSAT score. So the reality, of course, is that admission to top schools was already quite high, but now it might be even higher, at least when it comes to the numbers, because if schools can't shape their classes as easily through traditional diversity policies, they'll look harder at who can show academic excellence in the most standardized objective form. So if you were on the fence about whether to really buckle down on your LSAT prep, please consider this your wake-up call. In the new admissions landscape, your LSAT score can make the difference between a rejection letter and a seat in the classroom. Now, I'm not just guessing, this shift is already happening. Let me tell you about a student I worked with, we'll call her Maya. She started out with a decent undergrad record and a compelling personal story. And before the Supreme Court ruling, Maya might have counted on that story to tip the scales. But once these changes hit, she realized she needed a bulletproof LSAT score. She honed in on logical reasoning, worked carefully through tricky reading comp passages, and simulated real test-day conditions until she knew exactly how to pace herself. She climbed from the mid-150s to a 173. The result? Multiple offers from schools that she once considered out of reach. Or take my student Marcus. He began with a score so low he almost gave up. But once he understood the new stakes after the affirmative action ban, he got serious. Over a few months, he drilled question types relentlessly, learned to spot common pitfalls, and steadily pushed his score up into the high 160s and the low 170s, ultimately scoring a 171 on test day. What this meant for him is that schools that wouldn't have even glanced at his application before were now reaching out, sometimes with significant scholarship money attached. These stories highlight a key truth. The LSAT is no longer just another line on your application. It's fast becoming the central pillar on which your admission to law school stands. So the game has changed. Hoping your personality, background, or unique life experiences are going to carry you is not a safe bet. If you want to thrive in the post-affirmative action era, you need a plan to get your numbers as high as possible. So the first thing you want to do is double down on your LSAT fundamentals, identify your weak areas, whether it's reading comp or certain tricky logical reasoning questions, and tackle those head on. Perfect the core skills first. Focus on the most common question types to start with, because a rock solid foundation is going to set the stage for you to get a top LSAT score. Now, don't just take practice tests, you have to analyze them also. Carefully track the question types that you miss, figure out why you missed them, and correct those errors systematically. If you see a pattern, maybe you're stumbling on necessary assumption questions, laser focus on mastering that skill. Of course, don't forget to train for endurance, because the LSAT tests your stamina as much as your intellect. You want to integrate timed sections and full-length practice tests on a regular basis so you're comfortable under pressure. This way, when test day comes, mental fatigue isn't going to stand between you and your target score. Building that foundation first and following it up with plenty of timed work is key, which is why at LSAT Unplugged, we create personalized day-by-day study plans for all of our students, carrying you from your start date all the way through to LSAT test day. And we pair it with private one-on-one coaching on a consistent basis, ideally every single week, to keep you accountable and make sure that you're making steady forward progress. If you'd like my help on your journey to getting a top LSAT score, the kind of score that's going to get you into schools like Harvard and Yale, you can check out the links below to book a call. We'd be glad to help you out. What we do is we start by mapping out your current skills, then we tailor a personalized plan for you that attacks your weaknesses and solidifies your strengths. Our goal, of course, is not just to help you understand the LSAT, but to also help you master and avoid common traps and pitfalls. And use this news about Harvard's enrollment drop among Black students as motivation. Because if you act now, you can transform what seems like a challenge into a golden opportunity to increase your odds of getting in. So take it as fuel to raise your LSAT score, strengthen your application, and differentiate yourself in a pool that's about to become even more competitive. Feel free to reach out if I can help in any way. Check out the links below. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.